Welcome to the media studio at Enlit Europe. Today we're talking about energy story and grid resilience with Phil Thompson from Balance Power. Hi Phil, welcome.
Hi Yusuf, nice to be here.
So obviously we're talking about storage today. How much, when it comes to connecting renewables and resulting intermittency on the grid, how much connected storage capacity do we actually need in order to ensure a resilient system? I want you to walk us through the gigawatt hours.
Yeah, so there is a lot of talk in UK and European storage in terms of gigawatts of connected capacity, where we like to try and think more, how many gigawatt hours do we need of storage if we're really to run a resilient net zero system? So the analysis we've looked at internally is, we think with some reasonable demand pattern changes, 250 gigawatts hours would be a suitable storage capacity that we would have without some behavioral change and changes in usage patterns that could even go as high as a terawatt hour. So there's a lot that needs to change and to probably to really advance the number of megawatt hours of connected capacity.
I mean, those are some big numbers. How much connected capacity do we have now, and how do we really bridge that gap?
So at the moment, it's less than 2 gigawatt hours, which is a lot. So the question really is probably not in appetite for the market, because there is probably 250 gigawatts of capacity, all types of energy projects which are wanting to connect to the grid. The issue is, how do we actually connect that much capacity to the grid? There is a lot of space that's being freed up on the network from retiring capacity, so outdated fossil fuels or nuclear coming off the grid. But we don't really want to occupy that space on the grid with just a 1 hour system. So there's no use taking off something that's going to be able to do 23 and a half hours a day and replacing it with something that can only do 1. So, we need to really think about the technologies working together.
It sounds like we've got the stats, we've got the figures and the numbers that we know we need to get to. What then do you think is delaying deployment? What kind of bottlenecks are there to stopping storage from really taking its time in the limelight?
So the technologies themselves and the approach that the DNOs and the TSO needs to take is to rip up the rule book on how they model technologies and start again, and not try and say, well, we've been modeling energy projects like this for 50, 60, 70, 80 years. They need to start again and approach the system in a new way, and in a way that is, how can we fit as much capacity as possible onto our existing system? The next needs to be, how do we build a system that can accommodate all of this capacity? So the system at the moment works on, if someone gives us an application, we'll look for a way of connecting that to the system. There needs to be an approach of, well, let's look to build a system that can accommodate all of this capacity that will come over the next 10, 20, 30 years. That's the way to really accelerate the deployment of renewables. So connections, big problem. Permitting is another big problem, is planning-wise. How do we actually reduce these bottlenecks in the planning system? I don't think the bottlenecks of planning are that slow that they're implementing, that they're restricting the delays in the connections. So, but that's another big bottleneck. And really the attitudes to energy technologies, there needs to be a big education process within communities and businesses to how can we really benefit from this renewable energy and storage boom.
Thank you so much for those insights. And on that note of how do we actually get things done, how can we expand grid capacity, get these projects up and running, all the while maintaining the renewables business case?
So I think it's just central governments need to invest in the infrastructure first, and then they need to recoup that money via people connecting to the system. So pay for the system now, recoup the money from the system later. And that, coupled with encouraging people to, if you want from a demand side point of view, use energy more efficiently.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for coming to the show and sharing some of your insights.
Thanks for having me.
For the latest energy insights, make sure to join the Enlit community and subscribe to our channels. Thank you for watching.